Hey, hope everybody's well. It is a cold day here in Virginia, and I like to debunk some few things about a term that I kind of laugh about on the mold community websites. I'm not making fun of anything, but a few names in particular has pushed this topic, and I'm just not on board with it. Uh, I've been the best of the best. I've taught the veterans. Uh, I know who's got well. I know who's, uh, you know, I know the top names, the top functional medicine, mast cell doctors. You name it, I've done it. Heavy metal chelation. Anyway, I want to get right in the video. So I like to, excuse me, I like to debunk some things about MT. So the definition of MT on some of the websites is it's called mystery toxin, but it's never an explanation of what mystery toxin is. And I wanna tell you what mystery toxin really is. Mystery toxin, they're leading a lot of people astray because they're making out like it's this fantasy thing about the location. There's an explanation for everything, folks. Where I do agree with the mystery toxin theory is that some locations is better than others. I will agree with that part. However, I will not agree with the part that when they say that natural molds don't matter. I feel like that's bullcrap. Number two is when they say that it's only dangerous when it's inside. That's bullcrap, because I got 4 years of lab school under my belt. I got 2 years of MCS under my belt. I got 2 years of mold illness under my belt. I've been the best functional medicine doctor in the United States. I've been to one of the 12 of the main mast cell activation syndrome doctors in the United States. I've tried over 25 different binders. I've worked in construction. I've worked in helping making vehicle parts. I know it doesn't pertain to this. I've watched how things is built. I watched them took apart. And I will say this for a fact. Location does matter, but you have to understand what drives mold is humidity. And what is humidity? It is how much water vapor is in the air, and that feeds mold. Okay? Different locations in the United States and anywhere in the world, tropics, etc., whatever, outdoor molds will be higher in certain locations than others. I'm living proof example of this. Okay? Here's what people don't understand. The world's a big petri dish. If the conditions is right in your house, your attic, it's not well ventilated, your house is not well ventilated, and your indoor air humidity or relative humidity is staying higher than 50 to 55%, it grows mold. Okay? Where does mold come from? It doesn't magically appear, it just doesn't magically pop up. All molds come from the outside. Imagine that. Because the same way a forest grows where the conditions is right. So you got to think as the trees as a large type of mold, even though it's not mold. Okay, let's use that as an example. In lab school, we use something called agar plate, which has all the nutrients to make mold grow. So you gotta have water, you gotta have nutrients, and you gotta have the temperature. Those are the three factors. Okay. Trees do not really grow in the desert. You know why? Because it's dry. Mold doesn't grow in the desert. You know why? Because it's dry. Gotta have water to grow mold. Point being is, yes, outdoor molds do matter. There's a few names in particular you'll see that comes up on the website. It says outdoor molds don't matter. No, the same thing that makes your house toxic, if the conditions is right, is the same thing that comes outside. The only difference is, in your house or your attic in a closed space, the most toxic stuff survives because you got the molds competing, and that's their job. Is they're not working together. You got different types of molds, and they're putting off toxic things not only to you but to the other molds, and the most toxic stuff survives. So does location matter? Absolutely. That's why you see them living in the desert. But far as MT, mystery toxin, there's a logical explanation for everything. I'm going to go into a few things about the East Coast that I want to show you, and it'll kind of give you a glimpse and an idea of why I'm debunking MT. And also too is, you see these people, they say, well, I'm doing good and I'm around a bunch of trees, but they're not around pine trees. And where I'm at, I'm around a bunch of pine trees. So what does pine trees do? They hold moisture, they stay wet. You know, they're just a magnet for mold. They're kind of like big, you know, big filters. That's why they use them as windbreakers, so they catch all the molds and stuff. And then when the wind blows, where does it go? You can park a car under pine trees and you get all these black specks. What's the black specks? It's mold. Okay, take that same car to the desert, no trees, it doesn't grow mold on it, does it? Okay, so there is no EMT unless you live around like here, a bunch of wood stoves and stuff. It's poison you. But yeah, there's locations I do better than others. But I'm going to walk you around. I'm going to show you some examples that kind of debunks EMT a little bit. This is behind me. You can see all the pine trees, all that. So naturally, if you cut a pine tree down, you know, you got the molds, you got the saps, you got all that. You know, that's, if you take like my car for example, and I'm gonna show you a great example, okay? So I'm gonna walk over here, and this is Virginia, okay? Step up here just a second. Okay, look at all the mold on top of this. And what this van's sitting under was a bunch of pine trees. Now, forest trees like oaks and poplars, and I don't know if you can see it up here or not. There's a few trees behind me I can't see because of the sun, but you can take a vehicle, you can set under pine trees, and it'll mold within 2 or 3 months. You're out in the desert, they don't have those pine trees and stuff. So yes, location does matter, but when it comes to EMT mystery toxin, I call bullcrap on it, because usually it's the VOCs from the natural things or the natural molds that speeds it up. You know, like you can see mold growing on the side of my camper. You can see it around the window sills, and it's because all these pine trees. And some people's not allergic to pine trees, so I'm not saying everybody's sensitivities is the same, but let's use this for example. I live in a high humidity area. It stays 60 to 70% at all times. This is a t-shirt. I want you to look close. I'm sure you can see it. It's only been outside for about 4 or 5 weeks. See how much mold is growing on that t-shirt? Now you just imagine leaving your windows and stuff open, how much of that you're breathing in. So yeah, location does matter, but it's not the way they usually depict it. You know, they say, I don't like the term MT, mystery toxin, because they're acting like it's the trees are soaking up chemicals and they're putting off this toxic thing, and it's this mystery thing. It's not that hard to figure out, and that's why a lot of people that has mold illness, they go to the desert. But and a lot of them, they've never been to the East Coast, so they just don't know how bad outdoor molds can be. But you know, around me it's a ton of wood stoves, and that's another factor. But all in all, my point back in the video is, when people says MTs don't matter, they're just not correct, or MTs exist. There's a logical explanation for everything. It's kind of trees you're around, it's wood stoves. It's not this magical mystery toxin. If you live in an area where your humidity consistently stays above 50%, your outdoor molds will be a lot more aggressive, and you'll have a whole lot more outdoor molds. Think of a cave. You know, it doesn't have ventilation, so caves grow mold. So yes, outdoor molds do matter, and because what's outdoors comes indoors. A lot of these people, you know, I've been to laboratory school. The whole point of a petri dish, and I like to look at the world as a petri dish, is mold grows when the conditions is right. It don't matter if it's outside, it don't matter if it's inside. A petri dish or agar plate has the right conditions for it to grow. It don't matter where it is, if it has the nutrients, it grows. So, you know, common sense is, if you buy, let's say you go out and you buy a new mobile home, or let's say you go buy a new camper, it's more likely it's going to have mold or condensation or moisture issues if you buy it from, let's say, Florida or down south, because the humidity is so high. And you know, versus, let's say, the north, where it's cold and dry. You know, so that's why they say never, you know, never buy a used RV from down south, because you know it's so wet down there, and you know, that's why you got mosquitoes and all that. But you get the point. I don't have to go into details. As far as the MT, there's no such thing as an MT. There is what's called a trees. Different kinds of trees that promote mold. There's outdoor molds. The people that say they're doing well in a location, they say, oh, I'm around a lot of trees, I'm doing well. But if you look in the background, it's always oak trees, poplars. It's always the, you know, kind of the lesser toxic trees that puts off less VOCs. You know, they don't have the pine needles that holds on to everything. You know, when the wind blows it, you know, it just blows it all over your car. But anyway, that's pretty much all I got. And oh yeah, one